Welcome to Career Junkie Podcast. Join me as we take an inside look at some of the most popular and maybe not so popular careers all around the world. Whether you are just entering the workforce or you're maybe just looking for a change, Career Junkie Podcast has you covered. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Career Junkie Podcast. As always, so glad to have you here. And as always, diving right into the episode because I'm always excited about our guests that we have. And today is no different. Joining me is Doctor of Chiropractic and owner of Frank's Chiropractic. We have with us Dr. Christopher Brooks. Welcome, Dr. Brooks.
Welcome.
Welcome. I'm happy to have you. I know we got you on one of your off days, which is kind of rare with you. You're always a busy man. So thank you again for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So I always like to start off the podcast going way back to the beginning. So let's go back there with you, back to the beginning of, we'll go back as far as you want. So When did you know that you wanted to become a chiropractor? Did you have aspirations knowing that you wanted to do something with the human body or?
Well, it's funny. When I was a kid, my mother actually worked for a chiropractor. She worked the front desk and, I get adjusted before a football game or a basketball game. And I always kind of knew it made me feel better, but didn't really understand too much about what was happening, except that I laid on the table and noises came out of my body. But it wasn't until later in life that I really wanted to focus on becoming a chiropractor. There was two things growing up that I kind of always knew. First, I grew up in New Jersey in most of my schooling years, and I knew, number one, I did not want to live in New Jersey anymore. Number two, I knew that I wanted to do something where I had my own business. And that was just from hearing my dad talk. He worked for a corporation, and he always said, yeah, if you can, you try to do something on your own. So those were the two things I knew. And it's funny how it kind of happened, but it was Christmas Eve one day. I was 22 years old at the time, so I don't even remember what year that was, 1984 or something like that.
It was last year, right?
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, back in the days where I had hair on my head. So it was Christmas Eve. I was playing basketball. It was pretty cold outside, and I had an asthma attack. And I never had asthma before. So it was really strange. And it got so bad that I had to be taken to the hospital to get breathing treatments. And, afterwards they gave me all these inhalers and things. And what they fail to tell you when they do that is that it actually is case worsening, meaning the more that you use the medication, the more frequent and sometimes more intense the asthma attacks occur. And I was using these things more and more and more, and it was just getting very frustrating. And a buddy of mine at the time said, go to my chiropractor. And I said, my back doesn't hurt. He goes, no, you knucklehead. He goes, you played football, you played basketball, and, you might have hurt your spine, and those nerves run everything. So I gave it a shot. And sure enough, when we x-rayed the spine, the upper back was kinked up, and that's right where all the nerves that go to your lungs come from. And as soon as I started getting it worked on, I started using my inhaler less and less. The asthma attacks started coming less and less frequently until they just quit altogether. At the time, I was working for a company called U.S. Healthcare, basically selling benefit packages to corporations, which, that was not my lifelong dream. I didn't want to be wearing a suit and tie every day. It's just not my thing. And, being in the corporate world is pretty brutal at times also. But at that time, when this changed my life physically, I said, maybe I should do this because it kind of reaches both of my goals. I go down to Georgia, getting out of New Jersey, to go to school for 4 more years after Rutgers University. And then, also I could own my own business someday. So that's pretty much where it started, and here we are.
I love that because past episode we had Sonia, who is a physical therapist, and she her path was very similar. It was she kind of had an idea what she wanted to do. She knew the perimeters of it, but the career actually found her. I want to say it was either through one of her family members, and it's the same. It sounds like with you. You know, if you had to started having those asthma attacks, and then and in turn went to the chiropractor and kind of learned more about it in the field, you may not have taken that path.
Absolutely.
I love when our careers can find us. I think that's an awesome thing. So some careers we mentioned have different forms of education that are needed. I definitely know this one is one where education is important. So
Yeah.
tell our listeners what all is required to become a doctor of chiropractic.
Sure. So you need a 4-year degree. And it doesn't have to be in the sciences, although even though I had a 4-year degree from Rutgers University, I still had to take a bunch of sciences at a local university just to kind of get into the program. But you have to have that to eventually get your license in the States. And then it's 4 years of chiropractic school after that. So it's a total of 8 years of college. And it was pretty challenging. I would definitely say the chiropractic university was harder, believe it or not, than Rutgers was. So it was pretty intensive.
Nice. So if someone's listening right now and say they have a bachelor's degree in business from a university, but they're interested in this, kind of tell them to go back, get your sciences in and see what, I guess it depends on the program that you're wanting to join, see what they require, but definitely catch up on those science courses.
Yeah, well, there's prereqs, and this was back in, 1992. So it may have changed even still, but yeah, absolutely. You have to have biology 1 and 2, organic chemistry 1 and 2, physics 1 and 2. You have to have a lot of different sciences, which I didn't have. I was a business major at Rutgers. Everyone right outside of New York City goes into business because they think they're going to work in New York City. Yeah, so there's prerequisites of science, and then you could get into the chiropractic university and take it from there.
And that's the 4 years. So after that, let's talk about continuing education. Are you required to keep up a minimum per year? How does that work?
We have to do 20 credit hours of continuing education every year to renew our license. So there's different seminars throughout the year you could attend. Some of them you could get, partial credits online, but most of the credits have to be done in person at this point. Some states have it. And I know a buddy of mine who's an MD could do most of his continuing ed online, which probably due to this COVID thing will happen a lot more now.
I was going to say, yeah, probably a lot more virtual is happening. Maybe good, maybe bad. I don't know.
Right.
Okay. So let's speak on the chiropractic field as a whole. What is something that most people don't realize about the profession?
Well, most people, when you mention a chiropractor, they think of what? What would you say?
My back hurts. I've been in an accident. I can't walk straight.
Right. Pain, bones, that kind of thing. But the biggest misconception is that we're a pain treatment. Now, do we get people out of pain? Absolutely. Do the majority of people that come to my practice come in the beginning because of pain? 100%. You could ask the guy right next to you. But
my producer, Stevie Michael.
Right. But in no way does any chiropractor really focus on that. We listen to that because that tells us where to look. But the whole idea of what chiropractic is based on is the fact that the very first thing that forms in the human body when you're conceived is the brain and the spinal cord. At the time, it's called the primitive notochord. And literally everything grows off of that. The central nervous system, page 4 of Gray's Anatomy, says, is the master control system of the whole human body. It tells every other system what to do. It starts in the brain, goes down the spinal cord, which is literally attached to the brain. It's like a little piece of your brain going down your back. And then out millions and millions and millions of nerves to every cell, every tissue, every organ in your body. So when one of the bones or vertebra shift a little more than they're supposed to, um, they sometimes get stuck. And when that happens, it closes down the hole where the nerve exits the spine. It puts pressure on the nerve. So it's like stepping on a garden hose, right? If I have a hose going out to my vegetable garden in these hot Georgia days, and the water trickles out there and you know, waters the garden, those plants become strong and healthy and produce fruit. But if I was to step on the hose, then the water stops, and eventually at the end of that hose, the plants begin to get weaker, more vulnerable, and eventually wilt and die. It's no different with the nerve. If you cut the nerve going to your tooth, the tooth dies. You cut the nerve going to your heart, the heart dies, and thus you die. But the weight of a dime on one of your nerves shuts it down up to 60%. So what we do is we find areas in your spine where there might be some nerve interference or pressure to the nervous system, and as gently as possible, we just remove the interference, remove the pressure by realigning the spine, getting natural motion back in the joints, and then the body does the rest. I mean, most people, like I said, come for pain, and then, you know, a good number of them will say after treatment for, you know, a couple of weeks, they'll say, is it possible that this could help my reflux because I'm not having it anymore? Or, you know, is it possible that, you know, my headaches or my breathing issues could get better? Well, mine did. And just this week in my office, we have a way of using the nervous system to help turn a breech baby. And, yeah, it was pretty interesting. She was due to give birth in 2 weeks. We did this procedure called the Webster technique, which is extremely gentle. It's actually using just little very pressure points. And the baby turned within 24 hours. They didn't have to manually turn the baby, and she gave birth within 2 days. So
that's awesome.
The nerves, yeah, it's pretty interesting. If, you know, I know it gets chiropractors going when these things happen, but if you can see some of the things that we see during the course of a normal day, you probably would realize, well, it's probably not all about pain. Right. So
I want to touch on, because we just mentioned more of like a virtual style learning. And I want to say in these times, but I don't even think it's in these times. I just think it's where we are right now in the world. In general, so many people using technology. And I know one of the first things that you said to me was, you explained to me the weight of a head and how that impacts with so much looking forward. We're constantly looking down on our phones. How have you seen kind of a shift from maybe even when you first started practicing to now to, I guess I would call it an injury. I mean, it seems to hurt me sometimes. But
it is. It's a repetitive movement injury. Well, the biggest thing that I'm seeing due to technology is the children. 24 years ago when I first started, I never had parents bringing me children saying they have neck pain or they have back pain. It was always, you know, check my spine, check my child's spine, make sure it's working right, check and see if there's scoliosis, that kind of thing. But every day now I see a child, and when I say child, someone 10 years old or less with neck pain, which is, you know, it didn't exist 24 years ago. And it's because of looking down at phones, looking at iPads, being, you know, looking at computers, that kind of thing. And their head goes forward, like you were saying. There's actually a term for it. They call it tech neck. And it basically has the person carrying their head forward, which takes the natural curve out of the spine, makes the neck joints work a whole lot harder. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is sitting. You know, God did not build our body to sit as much as most jobs require. So movement is life. And when you're not moving, a lot of things suffer. Not just your musculoskeletal system, but digestion, circulation, lymphatic drainage, respiratory system. That's why people die of pneumonia laying in a hospital bed. So sitting is not good for us. It's what they say, it's the new smoking. So sitting and, yeah, that forward head posture is probably the two biggest effects of technology on the body.
I can definitely, and I know I'm not alone. I know a lot of people listening feel the same way, but I physically and mentally feel more exhausted after sitting at my desk for 8 hours than doing a full day of manual labor on the weekend. It's just that impact that being still and probably, like you said, poor posture, neck forward, all of that takes a toll on the body over time. And people working, like you said, corporate wasn't for you, but many people who have desk jobs, or they don't have the freedom to get up and walk around, or I know there's some desk yoga, things like that. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with that. That what is it? A body in motion stays in motion, and a body in rest stays in rest. Is that how you're much smarter than I am with that? So I hope I got that right.
Well, breaking it down to the most simple thing is everything alive moves, everything dead doesn't.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty simple.
you want to move.
The people listening can't see me, but we're via Zoom right now, and I've never like sat up so straight in my entire life while recording this podcast ever. So I just want that to be known. So I want to ask you, I know in other fields, like when we talk to our physical therapists, there are kind of mini fields that a person can break into. Is it the same for chiropractic? Can you break into, like, say, a sports medicine, or we just talked about kids, like a pediatric?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can specialize in sports injuries. You can specialize in traumatic injuries. You can specialize in pediatric injuries. I tend to take an approach of, I want to learn it all. I want to kind of know how to take care of the child as well as the athlete. So you treat them all differently, but you can get certified in these subspecialties. I guess you could say you could do more physiotherapy. Like I said, we do a little bit of everything in our office, but yeah, there's people that just specialize. Like I was mentioning, that Webster technique to turn the child. That gentleman, he was a doctor. He's passed away, but he that's all he did. I mean, he had people coming from other sides of the country to take care of their pregnant wife or child or something like that. So there are definitely subspecialties.
Nice. And one of the things that you mentioned that I think is crucial, especially when you become a doctor of chiropractic and go into owning your own business like you do, is the importance of business. And you happen to have your bachelor's in business, so I guess that helps. But can you explain a little bit how important that aspect of it is? When did you take over the chiropractic center? And on the business side of things, what is some crucial information that listeners may need to realize?
Well, it's there's so many answers to that question. I got into it. I wanted to learn from the best, and at the time, Dr. Rick Franks was seeing more people, seeing more patients per week, per day than any other doctor in the state of Georgia. So I said, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I just want to learn from him. He knows what he's doing, obviously. So I went to work with him, and I literally learned under him, trained under him, and then worked for him for about 7 years, and took over the practice in 2003 because he was moving out to a different part of the state and didn't want to commute, and gave me the opportunity. The business aspect, like any business, it's, you got to watch the inflows as well as the outflows, but the hardest thing to teach, and I've trained a lot of young doctors, the hardest thing to teach when you are a doctor, when you're the person seeing the patients, is you do not think about that stuff. When you're there to take care of people. If you take care of people, money takes care of itself. So that's one of the hardest things for a student to grasp, or a new doctor, I should say, to grasp, because when you come out of school, you're so poor, the poor people are talking about you. And, it's hard to kind of concentrate on just giving and providing excellent care and doing it for the right reasons and coming from your, a position of sincerity, and not thinking about the business part of it. Now, when you get rolling and things start happening, it's kind of like you got to watch things, but it's not as hard, believe it or not, as it used to be. I mean, technology in that sense has kind of helped with the business. I outsource my billing because, you know, back in the day, we didn't have billing companies that they could remotely come into your computer system and file claims and follow up on, you know, notes and things like that. With if a insurance company needed notes or documentation, they find out what they need. They let us know as doctors, we provide it. So they streamlined everything. Back in the day, you'd have to hire someone who was certified in, you know, billing and knew all the ins and outs of insurance, and that was very hard to find. Very hard to find those kind of people. So it's gotten easier in that sense. Plus, you know, people come into my office before COVID, they would, you know, sign themselves in on a computer, and I have an iPad in my hands, and I'm walking around, and I can see that Mrs. Manna's up front here, you know, before you
run
even
away,
came back
run
to the room.
the other direction.
That's right. That's when I snuck out the back door. But basically, yeah. So running the business, the day-to-day part of it's probably gotten a little bit easier, but like any business, you got to keep your eyes on it.
Nice. So speaking of business, I want to take a moment now to let everybody know that this episode is brought to you by Stevie Richards Fitness, home of the 12 and 16-week resistance band programs, which I can attest to. I am doing 16-week program. It is awesome. But if you want more information on either of the program, check it out at StevieRichardsFitness.com. And as a nice little segue to this, I mean, I have to sound nice.
I can't believe she made me pay for that.
Hey, there are no free ads here, buddy. Come on. I know you, Dr. Brooks, have seen this program. And I love the fact that it comes with so many modifications for people, because one of the main focuses on the program were the newbies, I would say. People just starting out, especially the 12-week or people with injuries. What are your thoughts on that program?
Well, it's funny you bring this up. So I, have talked to Stevie about the program probably 2 years ago, and I knew I wanted to switch up my workouts, but it was just I was so used to going to the gym and back, chest, tri, back, by, shoulders, and legs. I'm still stuck in the 1984
the
workout.
Old school.
And unfortunately, my body, the 2020 version, is not the 1984 version. So, as our body changes, our workouts need to change. So just when COVID started, maybe a little bit after that, I started to do the resistance band workout. So I'm actually in the process of doing it right now, and I love it for a number of reasons. Number one, you still burn the muscle up just as hard as you would in a gym, but you don't have the trauma, being a spine guy, you don't have the trauma to the joints, to the ligaments, to the tendons, the old injuries, the old torn rotator cuff doesn't bother you nearly as bad when you're doing this workout. One thing about my job is very physical, and I need my body working well to do it. And so working out's not an option for me. But when I was throwing weights around in the gym and, going to the office the next day sore, it made it hard to take care of patients. So the weight band, the resistance band workout that Stevie Richards has is the perfect answer for that. I'm getting the workout. I'm not hurting myself, and I love it.
Awesome.
I appreciate that, but I want to just let everybody know who's listening out there. When I went to Chris the first time, and I should go more often because of you discovered a compressed fracture that I didn't know I had in my lower spine when I initially went there. But when I had the program, I read your background. I know at the time it was 21, 22 years in the field and knowing how to help people with their pain management and their recovery. And I was really I really would love to get feedback from this person. So it meant a lot when you came back to me and said, this looks really good. So that's like the biggest compliment in the world.
You done good, Stevie.
You're done good. Now, enough of you. You didn't pay me that much. So I'm just kidding. It is a great program, and I promise we're moving on. But if you, like I said, if you're interested, check it out at StevieRichardsFitness.com. It's for all levels, and I can attest to that. You can attest to that. And even Stevie does his own workout, so he can attest to that too. So back to your day. One of the things that I've added into this podcast, one of the questions that I love is I want you to take us, we won't ask about your off days because, but let's go into your work day. What does a typical work day look like for you from the time you get in there to the time you go home?
Okay. So I usually get to the office about an hour before we open up. We open up at 9 in the morning. I get there by 8. There's a lot of notes, documentation, and things I catch up on, reports, so forth and so on, and just get mentally prepared for the day. I always tell, again, younger doctors, don't walk in the office 5 minutes before you're going to see patients and expect to be effective at it, because your mind is thinking about 20 different things you have to do, and you're not focused on what you need to do, which is care for the people. Then from 9 to 12:30, I'm moving. I don't sit down usually. I see patients. I go from room to room to room to room until 12:30. At 12:30, we break for lunch. Got about an hour and a half lunch, so I just kind of grab something to eat and maybe catch up on some notes or some phone calls I have to make, and then go back to work from 2 to 6:30. Again, I'm moving. I'm seeing patients the whole time, and then I basically leave the office and fall down.
Crash at the end of the day.
It's one of those weird things. As long as I'm touching patients and putting in close contact with patients, my energy is up. But at the end of the day, I don't have any problem sleeping. It's physical. It's manual labor.
I was going to say, yeah, you said your job is very physical, and it is. I mean, you're dealing with patients of all sizes. Like you mentioned, from the children to pregnant women to, I'm sure, large men. So it is, you have to bring it for every patient.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to agree with you. I got to have my A game.
Got to be in your A game. I know we touched on one of the misconceptions that when people come in is pain management, but in let's just go with your office. What is one of the most common injuries or complaints that people have?
Well, like we were saying, sitting is epidemic anymore. Very few jobs require a lot of movement. And believe it or not, the people that come in with the most pain are folks that are in the office setting. They're not manual laborers, people doing, physical stuff. They might come in store, but the people that are really having the more significant injuries are people that sit all day. There's more disc problems, bulging and herniated, that happen when people are not active, and then go to do something on the weekend, their body's just not ready for it. That's the spinal aspect of it. Again, with the tech neck, the forward head posture in children, but also, seeing a lot of shoulder issues, and I think that has to do with also the rounding of the shoulders, the forward head, because you can start off at a computer with good posture, but if you're there 8 hours, it's very hard, very, very hard for someone to maintain.
It all goes downhill.
It all goes downhill from there. So yeah, you're kind of bent over. We become the letter C after a couple hours at a computer. But that's what I see most of. Probably less auto accidents and things like that right now, just because of less people driving, more people working from home.
More tech neck.
More tech neck, the first thing that we lose is flexibility. And when you don't move, you compound that. And the tighter you are, the more you hurt. So I always tell people, just stretch, move, walk, drink a lot of water. That's the best thing you could do to kind of offset what Mother Nature does to us.
Is that why when I wake up in the morning, my body feels like it just got hit by a truck? It's because it's been resting and inactive all night.
Yeah.
I swear that gets worse as you get older. Or maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Well, I think that
no, it's true. It's true. Those first couple of steps out of the bed are a little different. But, people that have arthritis, for example, when they've been sitting for a while, or when they get up from bed, they haven't been moving, it's really uncomfortable, really painful. But as a person even with arthritis gets moving, things start to loosen up, they start to feel better. So yeah, movement is key.
I'm sorry, what were you
I was
saying?
going to say we may have chosen the wrong mattress too, and that's always an important thing. Or we might be at a point where we have to switch up the type that we have.
Yeah, we're looking into that.
Yeah.
At least we're gonna blame it on that anyway. We may just be like old people who need to move, but we're gonna blame it on the mattress. So I want to know. I know every profession has its pros and its cons, right? And if you ask any chiropractor, they'll probably say something different. In your opinion, if
Yeah.
you could change one thing about the profession, what would it be?
Oh boy, that's a good one. You know, dealing with insurance companies is not fun. That's not the fun part of the job. Taking care of people, you know, seeing people get healthier, seeing people improve, seeing people avoid surgeries or injections or medications, that's rewarding. But when you have, you know, Medicare or Blue Cross or one of these companies making doctors, and not just chiropractors, but any healthcare provider jump through hoops and provide documentation, hours and hours of it, literally, that kind of gets old. So I don't know how you can change that. As long as there's third-party payers, I'm sure they're going to, you know, make doctors jump through hoops. Their goals and our goals are two totally different things. But that's probably one thing. Now, as far as my profession specifically, I think we would need to do a better job as chiropractors educating the public on what we're really there to do. Now, again, most people come because of an ache or a pain, but, you know, I'm a pretty expensive aspirin. What I do is remove nerve interference. It's as simple as that. I take the pressure off the nerves. God and the body does the rest. You know, so I would say that if I could change one thing, it would be, you know, to have an hour-long health talk to the whole world to tell them, you know, what our goal is, our objective is. And, you know, usually when you do that, when you remove interference or pressure to the nerves, good things happen. So I always try to tell people I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver for them. But I know one thing, if I can remove some of that pressure, there's a good chance that a lot of their symptoms will take care of themselves.
I love that. And I can attest to the benefits of chiropractic care because I don't even know what I came in for back in the day, but I know one of my issues is carpal tunnel from, you know, my 9 to 5 is an office job and I type a lot. And I don't even know that we specifically address that, but just your adjustments through other parts have tremendously helped my carpal tunnel. So, I mean, I'm like proof that you just kind of align the system back where it needs to be and the whole body benefits. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you letting me help you.
Yes. All right. I know you're a busy man and you want to get on with your day, but I got 2 more questions for you. All right.
I'm ready.
All right. We have all types of listeners that listen to this podcast. You know, I look at the demographics and it's 18-year-olds to 65-year-olds. So if somebody is listening right now and they're like, you know what, that sounds really interesting. That is a field I might want to look into. What is your advice to them, whether they're just out of school or maybe restarting their career path later on in life?
The first thing I would say is go to a chiropractor that maybe you've either seen or one of your friends have seen or something like that, and see if you could spend a day with them. See if you could follow them, shadow them, see patients with them. That's what I do with new students. You know, they want to just follow me and be a fly on the wall basically while I'm seeing patients, and see if that's what they actually want to do. You know, everybody, oh man, I'll just go and become a chiropractor. Well, you know, like any profession, there's challenges with it. And unless you see it in action, they're not going to necessarily tell you at the university, hey, you know, doing documentation for insurance companies stinks, or this is physical work. You're going to be, you know, wrestling people for 8 hours. Right, Steven? We wrestle. That's what we do.
I got a good 10, 15 years left, I think.
So what he's saying is more struggle for you. That's what he's saying.
So yeah, just follow someone who's already doing it and see if that's something you'd actually like to do.
And that is, I think one thing that rings true in all the episodes that I've done is just the topic of finding some type of mentor, finding someone that you can get honest advice from and just learning from them. So I think that's great. And yeah, so find a local, whatever area you're in where you're listening, find a chiropractic office and go knock on the door. See if they'll let you shadow. And if not, go to another one.
That's it. They will. I mean, most guys they want to help others. I mean, I would hope that's why they got into the profession. So
keep going. If this is an interest of yours, just keep going. So I always wrap up the podcast by asking this question, and I love the different types of answers that we get. So it is, if you could go back to the beginning, go back to 22-year-old Chris and do anything different in your path, in your career path, would you, or would you keep everything exactly the same as it played out?
I feel pretty blessed, Christy. I don't think I would change a thing. I think that, God has a purpose for all of us. And I was lucky enough to find mine at a relatively young age. And, I don't think I'd change much. I don't really feel, and I know this is cliche, I don't really feel when I'm in the morning driving to work like, oh man, I got to go to work. I just have never felt that way. And I've been doing it 24 years now. So in that sense, what's the saying? Do what you love and you never work a day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Find something that you love to do. Whether it's chiropractic, whether it's physical therapy, whether it's doing whatever, and just make sure you enjoy it because you're going to be doing a lot. So,
a lot. But if you enjoy it, it doesn't seem like work. I love that. So I know you have a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, I sure do.
Okay. So we're going to link that when we publish this, because I know you can offer all kinds of helpful tips and you offer videos of different topics dealing with chiropractic and care. So we're going to link that. And then for local people, we'll also link Frank's Chiropractic, the office, and how they can reach out to you. And I loved it. I could go on and on and on and on, but I know you want to continue with your day, your off day, because they're rare. So Dr. Brooks, thank you. And who is the beautiful person behind you? I know our listeners can't see, but
I work for him.
That's my daughter. Yeah, that's my daughter, McKenna. So she's been dying to get in here on this.
Hi, McKenna. You guys listening can't see, but she's beautiful. So thank you for saying hi, McKenna.
You're welcome. My job at his office is to clean tables with patients.
Yeah, she's my table sanitizer. So
well, that is a crucial job now and every day. So thank you, McKenna.
You're welcome.
All right, Dr. Brooks, thank you again. And to all the listeners of Career Junkie Podcast, we thank you as always for tuning in. Find us on all major platforms, Spotify, Google Podcasts. All right, help me out here. I always go blank.
Apple.
How can I forget Apple?
I will follow.
Oh, thank you. All right, guys. Again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Until then.